Welcome to Egypt. Enticing images of timeless hospitality and ancient attractions. A picture postcard view the authorities are keen to promote. But there is another Egypt, a military-backed regime, where dreams of freedom have been crushed.
It's understandable to be scared with a regime that is not hesitant about killing. I've never seen a regime as bloody as Sisi's regime.
It all looked so different 7 years ago. This was Tahrir Square in February 2011. The night the people broke free of President Hosni Mubarak, ending 30 years of authoritarian rule. Or so they hoped. But now the square feels like a place of lost opportunity.
Well, standing here in Tahrir Square 7 years on, there's really nothing to indicate that this was the cradle of an uprising, that it was here that the people toppled an autocrat. The monument is bare, no list of names of all of those who were killed, and that's just the way the authorities want it. It's as if the revolution has been erased, and along with it, the hope it brought.
Icons of the uprising, like Alaa Abdel Fattah, have been treated as enemies of the state. He was a leading light of the Tahrir protests, secular, articulate, a software developer. Abdel Fattah was accused of organizing this protest. The demonstrators appeared peaceful. The authorities were not. Others told the authorities they organized the protest, but he was still sentenced to 5 years, another member of Egypt's generation jail. His fractured family go through the motions, without a much-loved son, husband and brother. Human rights groups say there are thousands like them in Egypt, families of political prisoners. His sister Mona campaigns against civilians being tried in military courts. In this household, resistance runs in the family. But Mona says the struggle for change is harder than ever under President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi.
The level of bloodiness is beyond anything I've ever heard or experienced, and the way they have managed to desensitize people towards death, to belittle the value of people's life, to make people get used to death sentences, to forced disappearances and abduction, to torture victims. This is becoming daily news.
Her brother has another year to serve, then faces a further 5 years on probation with stringent conditions. In this tightly knit group, the empty space at the table is keenly felt. Those who end up in custody can expect the harshest treatment. My sources say torture is commonplace, but few victims are willing to speak. Mahmoud Mohammed Hussein has first-hand experience of the latest torture techniques. He was accused of attending a banned protest and held without trial for more than 2 years. He says the only reason he was arrested, aged just 18, was because of his T-shirt. The slogan read, "A nation without torture."
واتكهربت في مناطق حساسة في جسمي، يعني كان في كهرباء منها هنا وفي الجزء اللي تحت اتكهربت برضو فيه. يعني كنت معرفش، يعني ما كنتش عارف احساسي او شعوري ايه ساعتها، بس كنت حزين وبتألم جدا، وكان في ضرب بشكل متعمد يكون في المنطقه اللي انا قلت له ان انا رجلي فيها تعبانه، لدرجه ان هو خلاني لحد من دلوقتي من شهور قليله جدا كنت بستعمل عكاز وعملت اكتر من عمليه.
Aren't you afraid that by speaking out like this that the authorities could come after you again?
هو انا طبعا مدرك ده كويس جدا، وعارف ان يعني هو انا مش موجود عشان اقول مجرد كلام وخلاص. انا بقول الكلام علشان يعني هحب ان هو يكون بيتشاف، لعل وعسى يعني يتخذ بيه ويكون يعني تحاول تنهي حاجه او على الاقل تخليهم يكونوا اشد حرصا في ان هم ما يعملوش حاجه. يعني اتمنى ان يكون كلامي بيتسمع ويتخذ بيه يعني.
Torture victims used to have one refuge, the Al Nadim Center in Cairo. But last year the authorities moved in and forced it to close its doors. Its co-founder, a psychiatrist, says the prevalence of torture in the Sisi era is the worst she's ever known.
You know, I work in this field since 1993. And I've been hearing about this field since my university years. What I've been seeing and what my colleagues at the center have been seeing since 2013 is unheard of. It was never, ever that bad.
So how widespread would you say the practice is now?
As widespread as the country. As widespread as the country.
What would you say to government officials here in Egypt who deny there is torture?
You're liars. I would say you're liars. I would say you know there is torture because you practice it.
And then there are those who are hidden behind the sun. That's what Egyptians call the growing numbers who vanish from the streets and are held in secret by the state. Anyone opposing the regime is at risk. Human rights campaigners say enforced disappearances are a trademark of the Sisi era. They have documented at least 1,500 cases in the past 4 years. But they believe the real figure is much higher. This is Zubaida, a student of 23, who wants to open her own business. Her mother says she and Zubaida were arrested near a demonstration in 2014 and convicted of offences including attending a banned protest. She says they were in the wrong place at the wrong time and spent 7 months in jail, but were later acquitted. She tells me that in 2016, Zubaida was detained again at a police checkpoint and disappeared. She was dumped by the roadside after 28 days, a changed girl.
فلقيت جسمها مقطع ومتكهربة يعني معذبينها، وصدمتني لما قالت لي ان يعني اعتدوا عليها ويعني عملوا فيها كل اللي يغضب ربنا، عملوا فيها كل شيء يعني مش كويس عملوا فيها. فطبعا انا صدمت طبعا
But her legal papers show the anguish did not end there. As Zubaida was struggling to recover, she disappeared for the second time last April. Her mother says neighbours saw her being taken by armed and masked police.
ندور على زبيدة لي 10 شهور كل يوم نموت 100 مرة يعني أسرة كاملة اتدمرت أسرة كاملة من 6 أنفار أنا وأخواتها اتدمرنا بمعنى كلمة اتدمرنا إحنا لدرجة إن إحنا نتمنى الموت عشان ما اللحظة اللي إحنا فيها لحظة صعب جدا ودي
Zubaida's treasured keepsakes are just as she left them,
حضرتك دي زحلفة جايباها من
waiting for her return.
نظفها دايما.
Her mother refuses to give up hope, refuses to be silenced.
يا ريت ياخذوني أنا ويسيبوها هي يا ريت ياخذوني أنا اعتقلوني مع إن إحنا ما عملناش حاجة يعني إحنا ما عملناش حاجة للسلطة يعني إزاي بنتي مختفية واخدينها ويعذبوها وأنا ما نتكلمش إزاي أي قانون يقول الكلام ده ولا أي دين أو أي عرق يقول إن أنا بنتي مختفية واخدينها وأنا ما نتكلمش لا نتكلم لو كلامي يعود علي أننا نتعلق على حبل المشانق هنتكلم.
We wanted to ask the authorities about Zubaida's disappearance and the other cases in this report, but they wouldn't give us an interview. Previously, the authorities have told me there is no systematic torture, but if mistakes are made, officers are punished. They've also denied there are enforced disappearances and widespread human rights abuses. On the banks of the Nile, there's little hint of change. Egypt looks locked in the past. Elections are coming, but President Sisi doesn't need to worry about the outcome. Several potential challengers have been intimidated out of the race. Many here are concerned about security amid bomb attacks by the so-called Islamic State. The president says he's waging war on terror, but human rights campaigners say he's using that as a pretext to wage war on dissent.
Having been here for more than 4 years, I know a lot of the problems that Egypt is facing. There are real economic issues. There are serious security threats from IS. But this is the most populous country in the Arab world, and if Egypt can't steer a course towards real democracy, that's a problem for the Middle East, and it's a problem for the West. And I'm leaving here with questions. How long before all of the repression here starts to backfire? And how many more prisons can the regime fill?